start. My name is Steve Wenzel. I'm Executive Director of the Rosenmeier Center for State and Local Government, and it's my privilege to welcome all of you here tonight. This is a wonderful turnout for this program. This program, the Rosenmeier Center for State and Local Government, seeks to inform and educate our citizenry on the issues facing local and state government in Minnesota. Our center honors the legacy of Senator Gordon Rosenmeier, who represented Crow Wing and Morrison counties in the Minnesota legislature. Senator Rosenmeier was regarded as the most effective and most influential legislator in all of Minnesota history. Our speakers tonight is Steve Kohls, a veteran photojournalist at the Brainerd Dispatch for over 47 years. His career spans a half-century of work in outstanding photography. His photography is what also helped, in my opinion, make the Brainerd Dispatch the great newspaper that it was and is today. Mr. Kohls has shot news, sporting events for the Brainerd Dispatch all those years, and he took outstanding photos for the Dispatch, and his photos have won state awards. His lecture will show how it is photos that sometimes best describes the news story. Steve was also served on the adjunct faculty here at Central Lakes College for 26 years, and I think you must have had over 1,000 students during that time.
Yeah, probably, yeah.
Who you made in them a love for photography, which is wonderful. The program tonight also features veteran journalist and associate news editor at the Brainerd Daily Dispatch, Mike O'Rourke, who will discuss the photos and the stories that surround them. A question and answer session will follow the presentation. With no further ado, it is my pleasure to introduce to you Mr. Steve Kohls and Mike O'Rourke for tonight's Rosenmeier Forum. Let's give them a big hand.
You want to go first?
Thank you. Thank you. I have a couple of housekeeping items. I've been asked to remind everyone to turn their cell phones off or mute them. Also, when we get to the question and answer portion, speak very closely to the microphone if you would. That way your question can be heard by everyone. But more important than that, Steve and I both want to thank Crystal Olson of Central Lakes College, who has helped us really put this show together. Without her technical knowledge and her artistic eye, we would not have been able to make this presentation at all. So thank you, Crystal. Steve and I worked together at the Brainerd Dispatch for my entire tenure there, 36 years plus. And there was kind of a running gag between the photographers and the news editors. Steve would come in with a great photo, and we'd praise him and how wonderful it was, and we'd put it on the front page above the fold, and then we'd look at him and say, "What have you got for tomorrow?" And that's the real amazing aspect of his 47 years, that the real challenge every day to come up with a stunning visual image over 47 years. And you might have come up empty a couple times, but I could probably count that on one hand. I mean, you always try to find a fresh perspective on things, and kudos to you for that. We're going to start with a segment of black and white stills primarily, and we're going to talk a little bit about some of these, and at the conclusion of that, we're going to have time for some questions and answers.
Right.
Then we've got a slide.
Well, we have a video show.
That video show
will be one piece.
And hopefully,
we'll talk after that.
Hopefully more questions at the end if we have time.
Yeah.
So if you folks in the booth...
Can I do a timeout photo?
Yes, certainly.
I want to thank my mentors, Lester Selno, who took a chance on me a long time, 47 years ago. I hope he's live streaming from Wyoming. Bill Matthews, who was always kind of a mentor to me. Ron Stolsky, who was one of my mentors. Joe Plutt, this is the house that Plutt built right here. Ellie Nold, who's a close dear friend. Also my friends, Bill Marshall, Bob Fitzsimmons, Mike and Jane Vogt, Dave Bourne, and Crystal for putting this whole thing together, and Lisa for being supportive, my wife Lisa, saying to me, Steve, don't do this show. Have Crystal do it.
If you would start the stills now, please.
Okay, we're going to just start out. We're going to stop a few, after some things. We'll chat. So here's some front pages.
That was February 7th, 1980, so 43 years from yesterday when they flicked the switch and Brainerd fluoridated its water after a long, long struggle. The city council members they had a contempt of court charge, and if they didn't comply with it, they would have been charged $250 a day.
Right.
So that's when they finally did it.
Those are people on the phone were actually talking to somebody about that fine going into effect. That's
Yeah.
Umber Lally throwing the switch.
And Leonard Peterson was on the right-hand side of the top chair of the Water and Light Board. In the bottom picture, you have Denny Martin on the phone, Mary Cope standing behind him, and on the right, Millie Michaelis, who was the council president.
So that was a huge deal, and Brainerd was known statewide and probably nationally for their fluoride fight. There were some other towns that weren't fluoridated, but we had this case, and it was bizarre. I mean, it was strange, and it didn't matter what side you were on, it was strange. But it was a real wild fight. It had a lot of implications for photography, for transmitting images on the Associated Press. There was a lot of interest in this story. And it was a nice way to start off my career.
Want to do the next one, please?
And these are some of the stills from that time when they're on the phone.
Denny Martin on the phone again, Mary Cope standing up. Next one, please.
This is, hopefully you can remember who these people are.
I don't believe that's Mary, is it?
No, that's not Mary. We can't see very well. Keep going.
We better move on to that one.
Keep going. Okay, so they called it Friday's Farce. And they'd go to the city council meeting and had T-shirts made. And, everybody was fighting with everyone. I mean, it was just insane.
That's Marie Schultes.
Yes.
She and Ben Schultes were some of the opponents of forced fluoridation.
Right. Okay. And there's the word coming down. Is that
Actually, Millie Michaelis on the left is our city council president, and this is
O'Brien?
Don O'Brien. I had to look it up. This goes a few years later. The city council they had already complied, but they said, we'd like to do a mandatory voluntary type dental treatment program. And the state said, I think they were like talking to Sister Mary Madonna Ashton, who was the commissioner of health. And they said, no, that's not going to fly. You're going to have to fluoridate it.
Yeah,
So
they're not going to trust
this
us.
was just another last-ditch attempt they had.
Yeah. And there's just some more.
Ben Schultes,
Yeah, Ben Schultes.
one of the
Brainerd
opponents.
Drink the best.
That's in the county courthouse.
Yeah. Okay. So now we move to we had a plane crash at the airport.
That was a Republic Airlines crash in January of 1983. We were all at Paul Forsberg's house watching videos on
Yes, we
Sunday
were.
afternoon.
Yep.
And the propeller slashed through the plane. One woman died, Margaret Kloster of Foston, Minnesota. Another young woman was injured,
Holly Hartung
Yep.
lost her foot. And she's related to Bob Fitzsimmons right over there. She was taken to the hospital. It was a Sunday night, just crazy. We got the call, rushed out. I jumped in the back of a pickup truck with some deputies. We went out. It was just chaos. What happened is those were the days before they plowed all the runway off horizontally. Okay, so the plane came in on a Sunday night and it started going like this. And it hit the snowbank, the propeller went right through the aircraft.
This might be good. Tell them, in today's digital world, if you have a big statewide worthy photo, you push a button and send it to Reuters or whoever, AP in those days. Tell them how you used to get it down through the Associated Press.
Well, we used to, this is before we could transmit. What we do is we take the film process and make a print, or we just send the film by bus.
Down bus.
You can't make that up.
That was the fastest
So you
way
go to
get
the
it
bus
done.
station, and the bus driver would put it on his dashboard, and they would meet the bus in Minneapolis, and the AP guy would come over and pick it up, process.
Things have changed a little bit since the
Things
Stone
have
Age.
changed.
Next photo, please. That's more of the Republic Airlines.
Yeah. And it was one of these deals where you just take your camera and you run and you shoot your pictures and you're really not sure.
And you typed out the caption. These are
Yep.
AP. These are you had to type this out.
Right.
And then we printed and sent it
Yeah.
to the AP before they had or when they had
Yeah.
the transmitter.
So
Nick-
so there's just a few more shots. This is something obviously unexpected and very tragic, but that was. And this is the young lady,
Holly Hart.
Holly Hartung, who was at the hospital, and I went to visit her
Yeah.
before she went home. Things were different then on HIPAA.
Now,
You could just knock on the door and say, ask the family if I could come up.
now we're now at the downtown fires.
Yeah.
The two fires, the two major downtown fires were 1987 and 1991. It was always easy to remember because those were the years the Twins won the World Series. I can't tell.
That's the first one.
Okay, that's Laurel Street.
Yep, that's Laurel Street. Robert's Drug.
There was a boiler in the basement of Robert's Drug was the
Right.
source of the fire.
Right, right.
In researching this, this is pre-internet, so we kind of had to go. I had to go to the dispatch to look up the old paper files for some of this. So it wasn't. Other than that, we just go from memory, unfortunately. But
One of the things we wanted to do was, Les Selma was my editor, and we wanted to have a color shot on our paper. So this was early evening. I don't even know what day it was, but I shot the photo. I shot it on slide film. We drove it. I didn't drive it myself. We got it to St. Cloud. They processed it and made a separation for the press. And all you old printers out there know that would be CMYK, cyan, magenta, yellow, black. And brought that separation back. We slapped it on the press, and we had a color photo for the next day's paper, which was a big deal.
but this time, Roy Miller was the editor. This is 87, or
No, yeah, this is the last one. No, first one was Lester.
Les left at 84.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's his father-in-law. He should know.
But I think this is the 80,
That's Robert Struck. That's the first one.
87. That's right.
That's Robert Struck.
Oh, there we go.
And there's Robert Struck. again.
Robert Strug, you can
That's
see
that
there.
night. And of course, it's just
They
wild.
were devastating. It was
Yeah, burned down Lakeside Bar, Alderman's Furniture Store.
hardware, yeah.
Yep, that all went. And that is now Brainerd.
Now we're into Front Street, I believe.
Yeah. Now,
So this,
now we have a snorkel. Yeah, okay, we have the fire department has a snorkel now.
I'm thinking this is the 1991 fire.
Yep, this is 91.
And this one was arson, who,
He's got it.
no, not as, there was a fella, Richard Needham was charged with arson and burglary for the 1991 fire. So that one was caused by,
Yep. And that burned off that whole chunk that's, when you go downtown today, those buildings are not even there anymore. And that was just as wild as the first one.
were they both middle of the night pretty much?
Yeah. Yeah, they're both middle of the night. And those downtown fires, it's, when you work for a paper and you've been around, it's nice to know the fire department, okay, and know that you're not going to do anything really crazy. That's the thing.
That's an advantage you had
Yeah.
over many years, that they got to know you and
Right.
had a certain level of trust there.
Right, because they don't want you doing something really crazy, like getting too close to an explosion or something, and they would be responsible. They don't want that to happen. So they have to trust you, and you don't ever break that trust. You don't ever break that trust, because if you do, that's not good. And if they don't like you, they'll hit you with the hose at 2 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning on a cold night. Also, fire department people who are photographed end up in the paper have to buy donuts for the crew. Okay, if it's a transmitted image, it ends up in another paper, they have to buy pizza. True story. So these guys really avoid me. That's Laurel Street. Yep.
So I think 1991.
Yep.
Next, and we don't mean to rush past this. We're lousy editors, and we've got too many photos, and we want to have time for questions. So if
we want to keep going here. Keep rocking. This is Laurel Street.
Probably the next one, please.
Keep going. Okay, this is just, you always have to do after stories, what's going on after.
I see Lou Hudson's byline there.
Yeah, and Lou was here, and we talked to the families who were displaced and all the above. I mean, anything that goes along with it. And here's what I learned that Lou Hudson always kind of laid this out to me real quick. I'll stop telling too many stories. But somebody criticized him for asking questions if somebody had lost their home. And he said, a lot of people like to talk. They really like to talk about what it's like to lose their home. Now, if they don't want to talk, they just say don't talk. But, some people just really like to say, hey, it hurts, and they'd like to be recognized that it does hurt.
Yeah, I think that's true. We were probably surprised when we would approach people and try and be respectful, and they often wanted to talk. And if they wave you off, it's fine.
That's fine, yeah.
But
this is more of that.
1991.
Yep, keep going. More 91, a lot of fire stuff. These are the big ones.
Those were probably.
That's Roberts again. This is the closing of these are just snapshots. When the Pine Center School closed, okay, this is the school cook. And this was at school board. And they finally said, boom, we're going to finally close the Pine Center School. And a lot of times you have to show stories, you have to talk about and show people's reaction, not necessarily when the board, but go to the people who are affected, and those are the people who touch your heart. Okay, so this was the school cook. She finally got the word it was over. And this is Bruce London. And Bruce London, for a time being, was
Brainerd cop at the time.
He was a Brainerd cop, and he was also what we call an all-star wrestler or pro wrestler. And he did that for a while. So he was an interesting character.
Moose. I think it was Bruce the Moose.
Bruce the Moose. You can't make this up. And this is our railroad history. I always check out the railroad tracks. There's always some great stuff there. Foggy morning.
Welder.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a nice scenic.
Okay. And this is Bethel Lutheran Church, south of town. They reopened the church after it was closed. Had been closed for a while. People got together and decided, let's reopen this church. And this is called counting the tithe. They're counting the collection from that day's service.
And then this was when Guy Dowd won the National Teacher of the Year Award. You might recognize the gentleman on the left, President Reagan. And I believe that is Guy's wife, Tamara.
Yep.
This was taken in the Oval Office.
In the Oval Office.
And I can't imagine, if I had a chance to be in the Oval Office, my mind would wander to every president that's been there. I imagine you had to completely focus on the shot. You didn't soak up the room, did you?
Well, I did notice one thing. The Norman Rockwells on the walls are originals. Norman did those. Those are not prints. So they're originals. It is an amazing old building.
We sent you and Steve and Jim Sloan there.
Yep.
Sloan didn't get into the Oval Office, but he was there to do some stories and talk.
The night before, Ronald Reagan had ordered an airstrike on Muammar Gaddafi's camp. So when we got to the White House, and you do all this stuff, we got to the White House, there were snipers on the roof. I mean, I could tell there were really snipers on the roof. And they were wondering if Reagan was going to actually go through with this today because he was pretty busy. Okay? And here's the Teacher of the Year or whatever. But they did it, and they let me in. And then I hopped in a cab and went downtown Washington and got to the AP, and they processed the film and we transmitted it.
Were you there were there AP photographers or other photographers in there?
Yes.
This was 1986, I believe.
There was other photographers there, and I recognized some, and I actually got to be in a press room, which apparently used to be a pool years ago. So the press room has little plates, little name plates for your name. So once you get your nameplate there, that's really something. But I was in the press room. We went in, got our shots, and I think Ron Nesham, not Nesham, whatever. I forget his name. He was press secretary. But yeah, it was interesting. We got to the
Ron
AP.
Nesson? Oh,
Right, yeah. Got to the AP. They cooked the printout. She was wearing red, thank God. That helped. I was at the AP. We transmitted the photo, and the machines were coming in from all over, from Washington and the states. And here was a picture from Mille Lacs, okay, Mille Lacs Lake, where the ice was going up on shore. And I don't remember which, it was one of maybe Jim Carney or whatever shot that picture.
One of our
people
okay.
came in on a machine, but I was there, so.
Someone was trying to replace you already.
Trying to replace you. I had to leave town. Yeah. And here's our favorite, Paul Newman.
Was VIR.
Mr. Blue Eyes.
He came several years in a row.
They always said that Paul Newman brought 10,000 more people to the track, just every time he showed up.
And he, for the most part, he did not want any publicity. I think one year he held a news conference that I can recall. But most other times he would just like keep walking and.
Yeah, they would, the track would beg him to do something. And the track would beg him to let me photograph him, just a little bit. And the closest I ever got was he was reading a script behind a trailer one day. And I was able to just go back there with him and I and shoot pictures of him reading the script. But yeah, it was, Paul Newman was big,
So he was reading the script of The Sting, and you said, "Don't do that. That'll never."
Whatever. This is Kathy Borgworth. Kathy was a 2-time state winner in track, in hurdles. Okay, there she is.
Kathy Borgworth.
This is one of those where you shoot it, and go to the AP in Minneapolis and transmit it back. And this is
the great copper caper.
The copper caper.
Members of our Brainerd Water and Light Department were selling scrap copper illegally, and that's why we called it the copper caper. Frank Ball, I think was with the sheriff or county. Yeah, she was with county then.
Yeah.
And Harold Holk, I believe.
Harold Holk, yeah.
And they're going over some of the documents and.
Yeah, they had taken in all the documents to try to figure out who's getting the money.
The superintendent, Elmer Lally, did spend time in jail for that.
One. But Elmer had a problem. He had some problems between that and fluoride and some issues. And then Jack Graham apparently was his attorney. So anybody you had
Gary Payne, who's in the audience this evening.
There's that Gary Payne then and Gary Payne now.
How it started, how it's going. Yeah.
Our local activist. Now.
Gary can correct me, but I think this was 1984. Does that sound about right? It had to do with aerial spraying at Pillsbury State Forest. And I don't remember where it was taken, but.
I don't recognize the background.
Yeah.
Anyway, but there's our activist. You got thrown off a Walmart parking lot too, right? Right? You can talk.
Okay, we're at CI game?
Oh, yeah, okay. Well, I happened to be on radio yesterday morning. And they asked me about these sporting events, okay? And so I don't normally go to the Vikings games or anything. I don't go to the Gophers games, okay? I think sometimes they're boring, okay? But if you go to a Crosby Ironton versus Staples basketball game in Crosby at the old gym, that is crazy. That's insane and fun. The people are jammed in there. And the players come right up to the line where you are. Now, Staples just won this one, okay? So these is Arden Beachy, one of the Beachies, doing a leap in front of the Crosby Ironton bench there with the officials. But that was the best ever. Staples basketball, Crosby basketball was the best. Yeah. And I mean,
they both had really good runs for a lot of years.
Incredible. And Dave Galovich, Lynn Peterson.
Who do we have here?
This is Sam Shepard. Sam Shepard finally was deaf. probably still is deaf, and he was fitted with some earphones to hear, and they just turned them on, and that's the reaction shot.
Neat.
So, okay. And there's more Crosby Ironton. Crosby's in St. Cloud. There's a very young Jim Galovich.
He was Crosby coach, was he?
Yep.
Okay.
And they named he's still coaching. You can keep going. And it's just this random shot, what you do when they send you out looking for page 1 and you have nothing else. And it's a dead of winter.
Was it your handprint or someone
No,
else's?
it's a kid. It's a school bus.
You didn't do that yourself.
And I went up to the school bus, and this kid had put his hand there, and I went, oh, that'll make a good front. And I brought it in. Of course, Les is going. And these are the old days of fighting fire, Lisa. And remember the old days? Okay. And this is Lynch when they used to fly the old planes. Retardant, drop. Jim Sloan and I went on many of these where we get covered in red fertilizer. That was
Coming to the office covered
just
with the
so
sticky stuff.
red, And those were a little bit looser days too. And if you got in the way of the plane drop, well then I'm sorry, but you did. I mean, nobody's going to go out there and say get away from the plane. But yeah, this is
Wrestling.
This is Jim Cawhey, our state champ, one of our state champs, and really good wrestler. The kind of guy that would look up at you while he was pinning a guy. You know what I mean? That one of those guys. So I gotta get my name list out here.
Merle Haggard.
Got to have Merle. Got to go to WeFest on occasion. You got Merle. And this is just our winter.
Her day is not going too well, but
go out there and get some
par for
weather
the
shots.
course. I have a little information on Sue Huff.
Yeah.
She was the recipient of the first heart transplant in Minnesota. She lived in Baxter. Excuse me for.
That's all right.
She lived with this heart for 27 years. I'm trying to find the date here. Oh, yes. July 1978 is when she had the transplant, lived with it for 27 years. We did follow-up stories on anniversaries of her transplant. Dr. Ron Sorensen was the one who first diagnosed her as having this rare heart disease. And he said back in those days they had no echocardiograms, no MRIs for the heart. He said, his quote was, we listened and we took x-rays and that's it. But she lived many more years than she would have had she not had the operation. She was a very nice lady. You've shot her several times, I think.
We'd go out there. This happened to be Christmas time. And a lot of these, you just repeat the story. You just keep coming back and you see how they're doing and you check in. And we become friends. Now, you become friends with your people you do stories on. Here's our Russian.
Oh, yeah, and I found a little.
Reach out to Sue Beck.
Her name is. What I do have with this, we did not have much information on because her name was. She was 14 years old. Her name was Valerie, and I couldn't read the last name. She had been in Kyiv, and at that point it was part of the Soviet Union, and she had been in the U.S. since 1981, 3 years without official notice, so nobody knew she was there. And I wish, and then with her is Chuck Grillo, who ran the Minnesota hockey camps. How the story ended,
Well,
I have forgotten.
Sue could probably tell us that.
She was the daughter of a pilot who lived in Brainerd, Massachusetts.
And how did you learn that?
Well, she was in social services.
Oh, okay.
She knew.
That came out in the paper, though.
Okay,
Oh,
you're
okay.
not. That was public knowledge. Okay.
Yeah, great story. Yeah, and she just happened to show up at the hockey camp.
Yeah, and I don't know how it suddenly became discovered, but anyway.
This is the Halloween storm. This is the Halloween
Oh, that's
blizzard.
the Halloween storm?
That is.
Okay.
That is during the day. No, it'll be the next day because it started snowing that
So
night.
1990s or whatever? Okay.
91. It snowed that night, and I drove up the highway, and this guy was out looking at his boat. And he still had his dock. This is Holden Day Bay. So Okay. Gloria Steinem showed up here?
She was speaking at the Brainerd Country Club on reproductive rights, and I didn't cover her.
Women of today, right? Women now.
Yeah. Okay.
What?
Sorry.
1979,
Oh, okay.
Okay.
It's probably on the cut line.
Yeah. See the KVBR radio.
Yeah. And you want to talk about Wayne?
Yeah, I do. Wayne Hasty was police chief, and there were some grievances that the patrolman had with him, and he was demoted by the Brainerd Civil Service Commission. But he was supposed to step down, and we showed up at his office. He was still there in the chief's office, and he wasn't supposed to be, and we took his picture there, and that was his expression.
Yeah. He wouldn't leave. He would not leave.
Eventually, he did leave the job, but it went through. There were many appeals, and it was a long, involved court battle.
Yep.
But that's Wayne Hasty.
Yeah, there's Wayne.
Wayne again.
Yep. This is just general retrieving of snowmobiles.
Happens on a monthly basis.
In the Upper
in the
Gull
winter.
area. Okay. And this is a waterspout, tornado, whatever. Started in Deerwood, and I started chasing it by Deerwood down 6 and towards Garrison. It was to the east of me. It knocked over Willie the Walleye. Okay. And the deputy who was parked there said he felt the car lift a little bit. And this is the first time in my life I ever realized the term tornado producing weather, what that meant. I always thought tornadoes happened. No, they do happen, but the weather has to be right, and they create themselves, and then they fall apart. They create themselves, fall apart. This one would go over the lake and just keep filling with water till it got so heavy and it would just dump it. Okay, it was kind of interesting. So, and this is just some of our sports stuff.
We have the two ladies in front are Brainerd athletes, Sarah Rogloski, 32, and then on the right is Judy Bialka.
Yep, Mike Bialka's sister.
Yeah.
So keep going. And this is
Bob Engen.
Bob Engen, who was a court reporter here, a triathlete. He would travel everywhere and do Ironman.
Training for an Ironman triathlon.
Yeah, he was always training for Ironman. Some of you people might even know him. But anyway, Charles Kapsner, I think he'd be a great forum. Can I talk about Charles?
Yes, do, because
I'll talk about Charles.
I've not interviewed him.
I met Charles in the upstairs of the downtown. There's a bank in Little Falls years ago. I don't know how many years ago. This is a long time ago. 70s, 8, 9, 80. Charles, I think if I'm correct, was a son of a milkman in Little Falls. The Musser family sent him to Italy to study painting. You're shaking your head, yes. Okay. See, I need to be backed up on some of this, but Charles and I have become friends. Anyway, he studied fresco painting. Okay, so really incredible at what he does. He became a fine art painter, and now has done the 5 panels. There's Sue Sterling out there nodding. The 5 panels that are at the committal hall at Ripley at the cemetery. Okay, and in those 5 panels represent the 5 branches of the services. And in those pictures are people who posed. This is Ray Stump. He was a middle school teacher at Little Falls. Ray posed. He was actually an underwater guy. Posed for Charles. Okay, and it's in the Navy panel. Okay.
And this is open to the public. I think you can go to the Minnesota Veterans Cemetery, which is right next to Camp Ripley, and go in and see these panels.
These people have to sit for Charles while he paints. Ray had terminal cancer. Okay, now his painting overlooks his grave at the Veterans Cemetery. So they're just wonderful, touching stories about people like this, and you get to hear this, and you get to see this, and feel this, and be there. You know, it's big. Okay,
Oh.
Mr. Caldwell.
Roger Caldwell on the right. Dick Ross later became sheriff. He's escorting Roger from the old county jail, which is now the Crow Wing County Historical Society, to the courthouse.
Right.
And there was the beautiful days when you had the perp walk or whatever. Now they're all going their tunnels, and we don't get a
Yeah,
chance
we don't
to
even
get
see
a
'em
photo. But there, you could see them there.
They take them back and forth,
That
and you
was
get to photograph them.
That summer it was a long
Oh.
trial, and we had the Twin Cities media was up here for a good chunk of that
Yeah,
summer.
they
It was-
stayed here.
Yeah.
And I mean,
This was the famous the murder of Elizabeth Congdon and her night nurse Velma Pietola,
yep, Velma Padla.
and it was quite the trial.
And-
now we're on to
Yeah,
gymnasts, are we?
This is Crystal Savage. Crystal was one of our first state champion gymnasts, okay? And there was just a thing in yesterday's, this was Brainerd that Terry McCullough puts together, and it says, entering the last home gymnastics meet of her career, Amanda Johnson, who's probably going to be coming up here. That's McGinnis. Let's go one more. That's Amanda Johnson. Okay, Amanda Johnson wanted to go out with it Roar, and Brainerd's 145 to 85, or 0.85 to 121 win over Grand Rapids. She did just that, scoring 9.75 on floor to break Crystal Savage's 1982 school record of 9.7. So we have an incredible gymnastics program here. I mean, it's been going on for years.
Dave Maris was the coach
Oh.
then, I imagine.
Yeah, Dave Maris was her coach, and it was one of his first champions. This is my friends south of town, the horse people, the Schuberts, and I love those people.
Percherons.
The Percheron people, and I just saw, there's a picture out here today where, as a photographer going out in the morning, in those days you went out in the morning and you look for a picture because it was an afternoon paper, okay? So you'd come back and you'd have to get it done by about 2 or 3. Anyway, these guys were always doing something in the field with horses. This is called setting wheels, where they heat up the steel. Mr. Weigel is nodding his head over there. You heat up the steel, and then it expands, and you drop it over the wooden spoke wheel, and then you let it cool by putting in water, and it sets it. That's how wagon wheels were made in the old days. So that's the kind of stuff these guys would do. So
They had to make their own. You can't just buy
Yeah, they
them.
made their own, yeah.
Okay.
Okay. And this is the Bedora fire. This is the aftermath. The Bedora fire is, well, the night it happened, I thought I was on the Bedora fire, but I was on the Moose Lake or Moose Jaw fire or something. The whole north area by Nimrod and that whole area was just burning. I mean, it was just, you just go up there, and there was bulldozers and planes and whatever. So we got, obviously, the action of the night, the fires, and those days in 76, I think that was, it was a fire every day. It just kept going. And you would just get the stuff into paper, and you'd go out for tomorrow's paper. You just go out, and you know how that is, and you just go out and go out and go out. And then this is the aftermath on the Bedora, where it came to a farm place and burned this place out, and the little boy is standing off to the side. And I call it a boy worries too. Okay? This is, I'm sorry. This is our mayor, this is our governor and former mayor, C. Elmer Anderson, in Geritol Frolics. Now that is a man who's got spirit.
And he,
That's really long underwear though.
and if any, C. Elmer had a very quiet personality,
Yeah.
actually. It's a little uncharacteristic pose, but he was kind of a beloved figure. Rather than office hours, I think he would go to the various coffee shops and just hang out, and people come talk to him with complaints about city business.
Right.
But he was a good guy.
He's a great guy. So this was in part of the show. This is my Amish auction. I went to a public Amish auction in, I don't know what year, 80s?
I don't have that year.
And
So,
obviously this is where
actually, it's got to be 70s because
the
I think it was
70s?
before me.
and photographed the Amish at the auction because it was still public. And as soon as it was over, then I had to leave. But there's my Amish bidder. This is called Red Hot Run. Mike O'Rourke and I were on this one.
In the Philbrook area, which is roughly near Staples.
Yeah.
Philbrook's very small. Yeah, they were the flames were crowning, going from treetop to treetop, and it hadn't yet caught fire on the bottom, and that was a devastating fire. I'd never been in a fire that was that big.
Mike O'Rourke had a Pinto, and so I asked him if he could. The topping fire went over the top, didn't hurt us at all. Okay, so we could hear the big guy coming. It was a train, it's like a train. So I asked him if he could turn the car around, keep it running. And as it cleared that area, you could see the flames. And these guys come running across the road. And I shot pictures, and then we jumped in the car and took off.
We suppose they were running to their car, perhaps?
I think that must be their car.
They didn't stick around to ask for any questions.
We got out of there, yeah. It burned some houses and whatever. Yeah. You want to start with that?
I do. This is the terrible Motley train crash. 2 11-car coal trains hit head-on, kind of near Motley, right? There were 4 carmen who died and 3 who were injured, I believe. 3 crewmen were dead, 4 crewmen were injured. June 13th, 1984, head-on. Who knows what the cause was, but anyway, it was. You were on the scene, I was not, but I guess it was almost like a World War II.
It just went up. It went up. And the week before or so, I happened to talk to a guy who worked at the ambulance, it was Boberg's ambulance in those days. And I happened to get to know this guy. And he said, give me your phone number, I'll call you if I got something. Okay. So I get this call in the middle of the night from this guy. I had no idea who he was. And he says, there's been a big train crash by Motley. So I called my buddy Jim Sloan, and we headed out there. And we got by Pillager, we got past Pillager, and all of a sudden you could start seeing the cars were stopped. You know how you see the rail? The trains were stopped. So we just kept going farther and farther and farther until we finally found a road that had a lot of law enforcement on it. Went in, and that's the only time I ever heard a law enforcement person say, this is really something. Wait till you see it. And you'll see some pictures. They were just head on, and they were roll up, just. Yeah. So we asked for a chopper to come out, drop in, and just get some aerials right away, get them.
Yeah, that really, you needed a helicopter to show.
We needed an air helicopter.
Devastation.
So, this is a story about 2 ladies at a nursing home, assisted living in Ironton. They each had strokes. Okay, the lady on the right had a stroke on her, and it affected her right arm. The lady on the left had a stroke, and it affected her left arm. But they were able to play the piano together. Okay, so they learned, and they did songs and stuff, and I did that story.
Is that at a church?
That's it. Actually, it's a piano at the rest home.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and this is the Raiders when they're on their championship runs many times. They were
volleyball or
that's basketball.
Oh, basketball. Okay.
That's basketball. Yep. And this is just another railroad shot. I like old black and whites. This is the quarterdeck burning down.
What year was that? I don't think I have that year. Yeah.
Yeah, somebody called and said the quarterdeck was on fire. This is Arnie Anderson. Does anybody know Arnie Anderson? Yay! All right. What a great guy. Arnie is incredible. He makes violins. And I just did a story on him last winter. And he puts together, he's really young there. He puts together little ensembles and does little Christmas songs and stuff. He was at the Lake Region Christian School. And he does that, goes into the malls and stuff and does a few things. Just a great violin player, just a great guy. He builds violins. And he's just an incredible man. He's just been a friend of mine all through the years. Huh. Now this, I had to be remiss. If I had to show you C. Elmer, I'd have to show you the chicken At Paul Bunyan, we play tic-tac-toe. Has anybody played? All right, Megan has. Okay, we got a few. That was a highlight at Paul Bunyan to go, and this chicken was smart. You wouldn't always win.
It's hard to beat him.
It's hard to beat that chicken. Okay? All right.
Oh, we're going to take we're going to have a short question and answer session. We knew there'd be questions, and we maybe have time for about 5 or so.
Yeah, we just got to try to keep it tight.
Then after that we have a video, and then a slide presentation. And if there's any other time at the end, we'll have some more questions.
Right.
But we'll ask Dave and Rob to see if they can find folks we have one there.
Yes, Dan.
Congratulations, Steve, on your, I guess are you retiring or what?
No, I'm part-time now.
Oh, you're part-time. Me too. So when did you go digital? Was all this on film? And then when you did it, was it a one-day thing?
No,
or?
it actually was a conversion experience. And as any good conversion experience happened at, sorry, Daryl, it happened at the racetrack. Okay, and I was at the racetrack all through the years. I've been at BIR, and I've been covering there, and I get to know these guys who come through, my California buddies, who cover the races. And they're really good photographers. And then I got to know them. I was out there one year. I had my film camera, and one of my buddies, Dave Kummel, who I still keep in contact with, said, still shooting film, huh? And I said, oh, Dave, I don't think I want to go to digital. I said, I don't trust the quality. Oh, he said, just hang on. So he went out to rent a car, came back in, he had this 16 by 20 picture of a race car at night at Denver, okay, and flames coming out of the engines. I said, oh my, I've just been converted.
Religious experience.
So about 6 weeks later, I had my first one. And then I just never looked back.
It was after 1990 because when we built the Brainerd Dispatch, we were proud of the modern darkroom with the cylinder you walked through, you wouldn't let light in.
Oh, yeah.
But it wasn't long after that you switched to digital.
Yep. Yeah, that was all abandoned. Yep.
Any other questions?
Ron, are you going to tell the story about the helicopter? Will you give the microphone to Ron Stolsky?
Maybe you'd have the photo.
Oh, no, I don't have the photos.
Yeah. Well, I was in my first year here as an athletic director, and we had a wonderful superintendent named Elliot Woolery. I didn't know much about ADing, and thankfully he didn't know that. But he called me in because we were then developing, Jim Hunt right here, and we were developing the lower sight. And he called me in and he said, Ron, he said, I want a picture of the lower sight. And I said, well, Mr. Woolery, I wouldn't know how to arrange it. He said, no, you didn't hear me. I'm not asking you, I'm telling you. I want a picture of the lower sight. And so I scratched my head a little bit, and I don't even think Steve and I had met yet.
Oh, no.
But I'm thinking photographer. So I get a hold of the Dispatch and get a hold of Steve. And then we rented the helicopter from Paul Bunyan, Lee Andrew. And Lee gladly took us up. We went over to the pad, and I don't recall, I don't want to embellish this much, I don't recall if I asked Steve if he had ever been in a helicopter before, but I sure as hell had never been in one. And so up we go, and Lee could tell this is going to be fun for us. So he took us over the site. I am hanging on for my dear life, both arms around the struts.
And the doors are off.
And Steve is hanging on with one arm and just shooting pictures like you can't believe. And I run into Lee on occasion since, that was almost 50 years ago. And we grin about it. And since Steve and I have developed such a wonderful friendship, I appreciate him so very much. And for all that, I mean, what to talk about a life well lived. and being able to share that life. And every time we do get together, near or far, we just give ourselves a wink and say, remember that time when we went up with the chopper?
Thank you, Ron.
Looks like we have a question over there.
Yep.
Hi, Steve.
Hi.
Yeah, I'm just curious, are there any dispatch employees in the audience?
Well, there's some actual dispatch employees. There's some dispatch employees and some ex-ones, yeah.
Well, I worked with Steve for 27 years,
Right.
and I was the circulation manager at the paper.
Yep.
And I just wanted to say it was great knowing both of you guys.
Thank you.
You were the best part of the paper.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. And the mayor of Jenkins likes you. He mentions it. Julie Joel wants to talk.
Steve, you've taken photos of so much. Is there a photo that you wish that you could take or that you missed that you kick yourself for not getting?
Oh, my goodness sakes. I don't know if I can answer that. My mind is blank.
You didn't miss many.
Well, I try not to miss. I do make mistakes. Quite a few. I don't know what, Julie Joe, I don't know how to answer that.
Well, you're like, wherever we look, you're there.
Well, I
So
guess
thought,
so.
is there something that you didn't quite get to?
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
you're there before the rest of us are even knowing something's going
Well,
on.
I have a lot of friends in low places.
Well, I've always talked about how generations of Brainerd High School kids have
Oh.
watched him lugging his camera bag through the gymnasium or the 4th of July parade, or it's like not an official Brainerd event unless Steve is there to document it. So, and that's unusual because most journalists travel from
Yeah.
paper to paper. So I think it gives you a different insight than a lot of journalists have.
Yeah, well-
You've been here for the long run.
Well, I came and Bill McCullough asked me to stay 5 years. Okay, because he said, I don't want to hire you. If you leave before 5 years, I'm really not going to come out on this. Okay, so I'd like to have you stay 5. I said, okay, and so I did, and then I went kind of native.
First you bought the sorrel boots.
Yeah. You know, I like the water. I like the people here. You know, I like Brainerd.
Another.
There we go.
Hey, Steve.
Hi.
You talked about taking photos at fires and having one hand out of a helicopter.
Yeah.
Have you ever had a moment in your career when you thought, oh no, this is past the line? How am I going to get myself out of this?
Yeah, I have had chances. I've had moments where I have thought, this is not going to end well. I really have. I mean, you know, I've been at places like where it fires where things explode. And all of a sudden the fire goes out, and then you go around and say, I'm okay. And then, you know, that kind of, yeah, I have had times like that.
But just,
you know,
go ahead.
That's, you know, scares my wife Lisa. You know, she doesn't even think about it, I guess, sometimes. But
But to my knowledge, you've never been arrested.
I've never been arrested. I kind of wanted to. You know, but, you know, I haven't done anything really, really nuts. No, I've been threatened a lot by law enforcement, but I've never been arrested.
You've been given the bum's rush by.
Well, I just get out of here. Or the thing is, you know, they'll send you to the sheriff and they call the sheriff, and the sheriff knows, and he just tells you, you know, you got to behave yourself. Just behave yourself. You know, you could be there, but just behave. Or I ask for an escort. Would you escort me to the plane that's crashed in the woods?
And they feel like they're in control.
They're in control. Put them in control, and they take you to the plane crash.
We have time for maybe one more question because we still have some more.
We got some more to
photos
go.
But go ahead.
One quick question, Steve. You take so many pictures of different styles. Which affect you the most? Which do you enjoy most? The portraits of people, the big accidents, the sports events? Which touch your heart the most?
Oh, the Sam Shepherds, the Sue Huffs, the people who are, well, you're going to see the Erica Dahlquist murder. You know, I did the Erica Dahlquist case. Nels Nordquist did Drew Shadeen. Same time. I got to know the Dahlquists very well. Still know him. He makes me choked up. Sorry. That's the kind of stuff that your heart just bleeds for these people, the pain that they're in. And then they ask you to come to their house. They ask you to come to the funeral. They ask you, because they trust you're not going to do anything rude or mean. And it's very humbling to get to that point. So that's what touches you. That's what makes you weak-kneed. That's what, you know.
And
Yeah.
Erica Dahlquist is in the next segment, I believe.
Yeah, Erica's in the next.
I'll spend just 10 seconds for those of you, it was a very tragic murder of a young woman. She was 21 at the time of her death. She disappeared October 30th, 2002. I believe she was at the Tropical Nights Club in downtown Brainerd. Her remains were not found for 18 months. And later on, William Myers pleaded guilty to second-degree unintentional murder. He had buried her body on his grandparents' farm east of Brainerd.
Yep.
So whenever you're ready in the booth,
Whenever you're ready to do the video. And I want to say something about video before we do.
Yep.
Why are we doing video? I was doing, and I normally get pushed into things. I don't necessarily walk into things. So Renee Richardson, I don't know if she's even here tonight. I mean, she's probably working. Anyway, is she up there? Oh, stand up, Renee. Oh, there you are. Thank you. Renee is my closest boss. So I call it Sergeant Richardson. And Renee and I are confidants and whatever. And Renee, her job is to encourage, but also, you know, criticize, but keep you working, and, you know, so you don't get so full of yourself that you don't work anymore, you know, all that, all the above. And I was covering the story of Byron Smith, who shot the two kids in the basement of his home in Little Falls, and I think it was Halloween night, and he gets arrested for shooting him. And the short answer is that now Byron's in Little Falls, he's on trial, and I go to Little Falls, and he's got Meshbesher, and he's got the Sly Fox, you know, and I've been around the courtroom a little bit, so I knew some of the tricks they play. So they were going to bring out Byron Smith out of the courtroom. Anyway, so Meshbesher comes out, does a diversion. Well, this is what the attorneys will do, a diversion to pull you to the side, and then all the media will chase the attorney, thinking that the guy will follow. No. What happens is they take the guy out the other door. Okay, so I didn't fall for it. I got Byron. I got great shots of Byron coming out. I was the only guy that really got nice shots of Byron. And I get back, and Renee says, "Oh, nice shot. Where's the video?" I said, "Well, Renee, I got this picture of Byron." I said, "Nobody else got that." Well, she said, "That's nice, but you should have gotten a little video of, you know, at least the atmosphere."
Editors are never happy. It's never
No, brutal. It's just brutal. And of course, I got a little hot, and I said, "You know, this is really bad." I said, "No, I got to do a video too." I said, I said, "Okay, I'll do video." So from that day forward, I've dedicated my life to doing, I think, as best of videos I can possibly do, with good sound, good angles, good editing, and I did have a couple awards this last time with the MNA. Thanks to Renee Richardson's encouragement. But yeah, it's nice to have people in the newsroom who you can work with, and Chelsea Perkins is right there, and I have Chelsea come over, take a look at my videos. What can I cut out, Chelsea? What is redundant here? What is dragging here? What can I get rid of? Just a moment in time Just cut that junk out, make it punch, whatever. That's what good people in the newsroom at the Dispatch do for you. They help you, okay? And you have to swallow your pride on occasion, but they help you. So thank you. Thanks, Renee. Okay.
If we can get on to the videos.
Let's do video. So you can turn off some lights if you want.
I think they can see it.
Come on, Everly! Atta girl! Here comes Gabriel! Go, Gabe! Go! Go, 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 go! All the way, honey!
Yeah, it's the same.
South Brainerd.
These are just snippets.
Spirit. Amen. The grace of our Lord Jesus Christ and the love of God. Then beyond, your memories will never die, O warriors. The ones we loved are gone, their pain and strife is won. But there'll be that great reunion when we reach God's heavenly shore.
CDL, and I just fell in love with it. Just all the technology and different things that go into it to make the car fast and make it turn.
Just saw it sitting in amongst some rocks. Yeah, just a few miles down the road from me is Cranfield, which used to have an old World War II airfield, so.
I was looking on Facebook and I saw the picture of it, and I knew it was my uncle's right away, but then I thought, well, I don't know, maybe this is some kind of a scam or something. I didn't know exactly what to do. I called Steve up and I told him about it, and he said, yeah, he was a little apprehensive first too, but then he called the guy and talked to him, and he said, no, he says, I think he's on the up and up, so.
It's quite an event. This Jack Murray is the guy that contacted me from Northern Ireland, and he basically said, sent me a message saying, you know, I'm from Northern Ireland and I found this dog tag on my local beach, which is a few miles north of an old World War II airfield. The name on it is Ernest Cleveland, and next of kin and Cleveland. So if anyone knows who the present next of kin is, I would like to reunite it with its family. And so that was the message that I got. And so we started doing a little communicating back and forth, and before you know it, Jack sends it overseas and it gets to my mom.
All right. Have you opened it yet?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right. Let's see it.
Let's see. Guess it's this way.
There you go.
Yeah, just what are you on?
Just talk
About today.
Yeah, just right now, just what you just did.
Oh, so Silver Pony is kind of an old lesson pony, so he knows lots of little naughty tricks, and he was getting away with some stuff with Kristen, so he went on a couple of hot laps with me, and a couple of hot laps straightens him right out.
Yeah, and she's got her cold body up against her.
St. Paul's Church in North Brainerd.
They got their bell fixed.
We're at St. Paul's Episcopal Church, and we are getting our bell fixed. It has not worked for a few years. There were some malfunctions, like a broken rope and cracked housing, and it wasn't safe to ring. And we're getting it repaired by a company that specializes in historic bell restorations.
On a normal year, we have 81 bus routes. Unfortunate with the bus driver shortage, which is they talk about a national shortage. It's not a shortage. It's a critical shortage now. This year, we've combined 10 bus routes to a total 71 bus routes. Typical cold days like this, Andrew and I we're out there at 3:15 every morning, making sure that everything in our lot starts. Oil's checked, coolant's checked, getting ready for the day. Make sure that they're warm. Big job. Everything started this morning with the exception of one, which was an older spare. So today was a good day. We got everything on the road, everybody's park out started, and it was successful. Everybody got to school on time today. Drivers are getting sick with the COVID. That puts more strain on our staff. I got mechanics driving, I have administration driving, I have myself driving, my office is driving. Some days the office is empty. And unfortunately, as much as we don't want to, we have to close some routes down. There's just not enough people to go around.
Stony Brook Streams, when did we start? You probably have heard of the Nisswa Stemma. This is a Scandinavian festival that we have up in Nisswa every year. And we started teaching folk music to these kids, and pretty soon we got so many that we decided, well, we need to have a name. And so I did pick Stony Brook from up at up toward Nisswa. Bar Harbor area is where Stony Brook. My brothers used to fish that all the time when they were young. I come to Lake Region School here once a week on Wednesdays. And then on Tuesdays, I have another group over in Deerwood. And so we put them all together. At one time, we had 70 of us. So it's just been lots of fun.
We were so close, you know.
As a family.
As a family, it was to lose something like her, you know. Just she was the hub. You know, she was the rock of the family. If you wanted any computer questions or cell phone questions or
Help finding anything.
Yep, help find anything, the computer stuff, unbelievable.
She was an amazing woman. And she was getting married yesterday, so it's really been tough.
Yep, very tough.
Justin, thank you for coming into the arena today to have a ride for your dear Katie, along with her horse Honeybee. On June 13th, one of our horse family friends was taken away from us. Katie Amick could always be found at any of the horse shows and events here at the Crow Wing County Fairgrounds. Today we have planted a tree at the entrance of the arena to honor her. It will always be a reminder of her dedication to horse showing, rain or shine. This tree will provide shelter and shade for everyone for many years.
No. You going?
Side by side.
Professional, don't try it at all. And that's how you do it, folks.
Okay, thank you.
I know we have another short slide. Anything you want to say before we'll do questions later if there's any time.
Yeah, we can do questions afterwards. I'm going to have a little slideshow.
Short slideshow too. And if you, so
Okay.
we'll run that. And then
You can run it if you want to go for it. I do like video for some of the things you can do with your expressiveness. In other words, your creativity. Ski journing, you know, wonderful. You can't really show that well with stills. Okay, you have to have that sound and emotion and all the stuff that goes into it. And it's just a never-ending challenge to learn all that stuff. And you know, John, you know, I mean, it's a whole new world. Wonderful. So
you can teach an old dog new tricks.
Oh, yeah, I guess you did. And I learned by doing, but I do a lot of YouTube. A lot of YouTube.
Here's the slideshow.
Danielle Yulinen, she had cancer. She made it. This is election night at the courthouse.
One of the judges.
And one of the judges. This is exploring the black hole. Remember the black hole? This is North Lawn. North Lawn, yep. That's the black hole on the top side. Ash Wednesdays are, oh, sorry, close to my heart, okay? We Fest. Ringo. A lot of time at the track. What? Don't talk?
No. I would say you've got the hearing to show for it at the time of the track.
Oh, okay. This is the Dahlquist funeral.
Ruth Geminder.
That's Ruth Geminder. Budget cuts. Graduation. I think that's Levi Laval. Fred Eastland. Opening day of fishing. Rachel Hansen, cancer survivor. Memorial Day. Brent Walt. What was the year it was so high? Black Friday. Two ladies used to be the ice princesses. I used to visit them every year. I know, it's just nuts. Stony Brook, I'm allowed one per month. Bill Musil, our Citizen of the Year. Ricky Randall. The Blowdown.
probably have time for 2 or 3 questions. We got to get out of here probably by about 8:30, but if anyone still has any questions.
Go ahead. My friend Lisa Silo.
Have you always had an interest in photography? Thinking back when you were a little boy, when did you decide
I was
that's the
flunking out of
vocation I
college.
want?
I was flunking out of college. I'm a farm boy, okay? I grew up on a farm in western Minnesota. I was the farthest thing away from being a news photographer you can imagine. And the anecdote, the story that goes for that is, I went to Moorhead State, well, I went to Wilmer Community College first, Moorhead State, and I wasn't doing well. Okay, it was supposed to be in the sciences. And I was just, this is bad. I mean, this is not going well. So I got desperate. And I went over to the journalism department at Wilmer Community College. And I liked it, okay? Came home and told my parents that I was going to get into newspapering. And they said, oh, this is not good. Maybe you should think about maybe ag journalism. So, okay, so this went on for years. And then the day I came home and told them that I was going to be a news photographer, that was really bad. And my friend C. Elmer, who I probably, God bless him, my mom and dad loved 4th of July parades, okay? So they would come to the Brainerd 4th of July parade. And I was photographing it, and C. Elmer Anderson comes walking along, and I introduced him to my mom and dad. And he said, Marcella and Milton, we like Stephen here. And from that day forward, I was a news photographer with the Brainerd Dispatch. The true story. Yes, Daryl.
I don't have a question, but after living here for over 30 years and subscribing to the Dispatch all the time, it is so fun for me to look at the paper and see, without looking at the byline and so on, there's a Steve picture.
Well, be careful, because Kelly's sitting here.
He does a great job too, but and I especially appreciate the nature pictures. They really jump out for me. Thank you.
Probably have time for one last question here.
All right, well, yep.
Obviously, you love your job, but I've seen you shooting in incredibly terrible conditions, minus 20 degrees, late at night, during the day, probably in the morning, you could call something. Does it ever get hard where you're kind of like, oh, man, I don't want to call like this at 1 a.m., or is it part of the job?
Yeah. You talk just cross-country ski stuff we just did. Right. It was cold. Downhill stuff was cold, too, this year. Man, it was cold. It kind of goes back to the old slide days when you used to open a box of slides and look at the pictures. And you go, oh, that's a good one. Or that one didn't work. It's kind of like, I want to see what I can get here. Okay. And also, it's the threats that you get from the editors. That you basically, you're out there covering things. Okay. And this is your beat. This is what you do. And not being threats, but I mean, this is your job. And so, yeah, it hurts sometimes. I buy everything I can known to man to make it easier. I mean, I did drive that 93 Camry for a lot of years. Now I've got a decent car, but I have heated gloves and I have heated socks and I do all this. But yeah, sometimes it really hurts. Yeah, it hurts, and you get so darn cold that you know, whatever. But I do like the Nordic ski kids. I like those kids. I enjoy those young people, and they have a tendency to know me and be friends with me, and that's nice. And so yeah, there's times, but that's what I do. You know, does that kind of answer it?
Yeah, that's perfect. And that was the exact scenario I was thinking. I was like, it was like 10 below, and you're shooting. I was like, man, this is rough today. And
it was cold that day. It was cold. Yeah.
Steve.
Yes, Tim.
I stopped into the Dispatch the other day. I don't get there very often, but I enjoy coming there because I know I'm going to see you.
Mm-hmm.
And for so many of us that spent a lot of time at the Dispatch, and there's a few of them in this room, you were there when we came,
yep,
and you were there when we left. who are our ever-ready bunny.
Yep.
And you've done your job so well with grace and humanity, and thanks.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you. Well, my buddy Fitz always calls me, and I say, what are you doing? I said, I'm out looking for page 1. That's what, I mean, every time he calls me, I'm out looking for page 1. I think I'm going to put it on my cemetery stone. He's not here. He's out looking for page 1.
Well,
but anyway.
It's been a lot of fun going down.
Is that it?
It's been fun going down memory lane, and we're all glad it's not a retirement party, and it's
This
not
is
a
not a
memorial
retirement
service.
party.
Thanks, Steve.
Yeah, this is not a retirement party. I'm still working part-time. I still appreciate your news tips. Oh.